Hello, friends and fellow veterans. Today I want to talk about something that I've been dealing with, and more importantly, my loved ones have been dealing with for a very long time. I'm 70 years old, and I've just come to the realization that I'm a very, very controlling person. Never really thought about it, but through therapy and conversations with my wife and self-examination, uh, I came up with the reason why, or the possible reasons why I'm so controlling, is that for as long as I could remember, if I'm honest, for as long as I can remember, I've always operated through fear. Growing up the way I did, where I did, how I did, in New York in the 50s and 60s, to survive, I was out in the streets, 12 years old, doing what I did. I operated through fear. Fear was my way of energizing myself, getting myself prepared. And through fear, I controlled the situation, or at least I thought I controlled the situation. And it continued when I went in the military, controlling, through fear, controlling. When I got out of the military, I was married for the first time and then had children. When my kids were really young, I was fearful of everything. Nobody would know that because I controlled everything. I made sure this was this way and that was that way. I made sure everything was the way I thought it should be. And I never realized that why I was so specific and so hell-bent on doing things the way I wanted them done was because I was living out of fear. I never examined it. I never really thought that's why I was the way I was. But here I am, getting older. At 70, you start realizing certain things about yourself. You start doing a lot of self-examination. Okay, so if being a controlling person is a direct response out of fear, panic, or a sense of helplessness, which I've had through my life, no doubt about it, although I would never show it. I always kept that inside, and I made sure I controlled the situation to overcompensate for the fear. But what I never did, what I've never done, and maybe why I was so controlling, I never really faced my fears. I covered them up, false bravado, just putting on a certain persona, behaving a certain way, but I never really examined what I was afraid of. And apparently I was afraid of many things. Everything, if you think about it, almost everything. I was afraid of getting hurt. I was afraid of, my parents leaving me when I was really young. I was afraid of my children, something happened to them. When I was in the military, I was afraid. So what I never really did do is I never trusted. And maybe that's why I was so controlling, because I never really trusted in a higher power, in a God, or even myself or anyone else to give responsibility to say, all right, the universe, God, whatever, will take care of the situation. Never thought of even trying to do that. But as I've started to go into my golden years, I'm realizing that I better start trusting. I'm very fortunate. I have a really wonderful wife and a very insightful wife, and she keeps me honest, and we have long conversations every morning. And learning to trust in another person, whether it be a wife, a girlfriend, a wife, a friend, your children, your parent, whatever, whomever. That's a practice. And it's a practice I never had. I never even thought about. So and trusting myself. But if I think about the events of my life, if I think about the journey that my life took, growing up where I did, how I did, when I did, going in the military and meeting the people I met, coming out of my comfort zone from my neighborhood, and then meeting people from all over the country and other guys, back, this was in the mid 70s. It was a different world, From the time I was, I don't know, 10 years old, Vietnam was on the news. It was just looming. So we all thought that was our future. From the time you were a little kid, 10 years old, until you're out, your friends, you all thought, well, that's it, this thing, this Vietnam, this place. You don't really know what it was, but it was this place that you see on the news. And you lived in fear of it. And then you didn't live in fear of it. Then you just, it was just one of those things. It lasted from 10 years, really, 65, maybe even earlier than that, but let's say 65 to 75. And it was a 10-year gap where that was at the forefront of everybody's thinking in my life and my neighborhood and people, friends that went and, who enlisted here, who got drafted here. We had the great lottery, number 86, though I got a deferment because I did go to college for a couple of years, so delayed my entry, and then I wound up enlisting anyway. Went in. But had I been more trusting in my life, I probably would have been a better leader in the military. My teammates would have been more appreciative that I gave them trust, that I wasn't micromanaging everything. In my professional world post-military, I'm sure I was never confronted by staff. They didn't do that back then, but I think they would have appreciated if I gave them the latitude to be more creative, to be to take ownership of their work. No, I micromanaged everything. I micromanaged my children, how they grew up in the beginning. And again, going back to the why, and the why is fear. I was afraid that things would not get done properly and they will be held to pay. Why? I don't know. But I thought if I did not do a perfect job, like I was the only one who could do a perfect job, if it wasn't done perfectly and I could only do the perfect job, they'd be held to pay. So I had to raise my kids the way I saw fit, and that led to a lot of conflict with their mother. At work, I had to do things had to be done the way I wanted them to be done. And, caused some grumbling, a lot of grumbling and turnover. I had to be honest, there was turnover because of my behaviors. Because I fully believed that I was the only person who could do the job, which is ludicrous. But the only reason was because I had no trust. I did not know how to trust. I didn't know how to trust myself, let alone trust your employees, trust your friends, trust your children, trust your parents, trust your loved ones. And truthfully, it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad to go through your whole life not trusting. I am so happy that at this juncture, at this time in my life, where I'm working real hard to look deep within and to give stuff up, to say, God, I can't do this. I don't have the power. It was something I could never do in the past. I could never say I didn't have the power. but I can now. And it's a beautiful thing. And if you, my friends, struggle with the same thing, I suggest you look deep within and, if you're a religious, spiritual person, whatever, just give it on up, because it helps and it works. This is a segue, but I'll mention it anyway. One of the things that I'm very proud of is I wrote and produced this film, and it was the last, and it had to do with loss and coming back from loss, and it was made by myself and other veterans, primarily for veterans, but it was really, it's relatable to everyone. It's about loss and conquering loss, getting getting past all of the negativity. And it's a beautiful film, and it means a lot to me. So hopefully you see it. It was the last post I made. I had to do some editing for YouTube, but you'll get the gist of it. Anyway, coming back to trust. I trust that you all are getting some benefit from my sharing my story. I trust that we'll keep a relationship going. And if you think this is helpful, let me know. If you think it's not helpful, that I should mind my business, let me know about that too. I just felt a little compelled to, by controlling this, I felt compelled to just say that for 70 years of my life, as long as I could remember, that I have had to dominate a situation. I had to control a situation where I did not have the trust to hand it over to others. I didn't have trust in myself, and you waste a lot. You waste a lot of relationships. You waste a lot of time. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you, and hopefully you get something out of this. And hopefully, if you have a similar situation, let me know. We could talk more about it. In any case, we'll talk next week. I want to talk about benefits, veterans' benefits, and the importance of those, and how, if you haven't, and I don't care if you separated 20, 30, 40, in my case it was 50 years ago, or you're recent, you just separated from service, sign up for benefits. Just go to the business office of your local VA and get in there. Anyway, we'll talk about that more next week. So see you then. Thanks for watching.